In this tutorial, we'll be building a snake game using Svelte.js. We'll be learning how to respond to keyboard events, and we'll get practice passing data between components. If you're completely new to Svelte.js, please check out the example links in the video description. With all that being said, let's get started. Download and unzip the starting code file in the video description. Open the unzipped folder with VS Code. Then open a new terminal in VS Code and type in npm install. Let's explore the starting code. Let's start with the public folder. It has our index.html file, background image, global CSS. In this project, I'm using a Google font called Freckleface. I installed it in the index.html file, and I also changed the title tag there as well. I also made the links relative so that they would work with Github Pages. In the source folder, I have 4 components: the app component, the snake component, the food component, and the SnakeBody component. The app component is the root component. There are 2 functions in the app component, one to help with keyboard events and the other to see if the snake is colliding with another element on the page. The app component has the HTML and CSS for the area that the snake will travel in. The snake component will contain all the SnakeBody components. Later on, the app component will pass an array of objects to the snake component. Each object will contain the position that the SnakeBody should be rendered in. In the SnakeBody component, I've already written the HTML and CSS to render a snake body and to change the direction of the snake's eyes. For now, the positions are hard-coded in the CSS. The same is true for the food component. Now let's run npm dev. You should see a static game with the food and one snake body not moving. In the food component, create 2 props named food left and food top. These will be used to control the position of the food component. Now delete the left and top values in the CSS. Let's have those props control the left and top values of the food component with an inline style. In the app component, we'll create a food left and food top variable to control the left and top positions of the food component. Pass those variables as props to the food component. Set the food top and food left variables to different values to confirm that the food moves around. Let's start by creating the props. We'll need a top and left prop to control the position, an isHead prop to control whether we show the eyes, and a direction prop to point the eyes in the right direction. Then delete the CSS that controls the component's position. Next, use the left and top prop to control the component's position in an inline style. Notice the class is written in CSS, left, right, up, down. These are used to rotate the component's head to the correct direction. Replace the hard-coded right class in the HTML with the direction prop. The direction prop now controls the direction that the snake eyes are pointing in. Finally, write an if statement to display the eyes. Test this code by changing the prop's values. Be sure to change it back once you're done. Next, we're going to create a multi-body snake. Each snake body is 50 by 50 pixels. We want the tail of the snake to start at left equals 0, top equals 0, and the head of the snake to start at left equals 100, top equals 0. To accomplish this, we'll use an array. The head of the snake will always be the first element in the array, and the tail of the snake will always be the last element in the array. Add a SnakeBodies prop to the snake component. Create a SnakeBodies array in the app component. Then pass the array of SnakeBodies as a prop to the snake component. In the snake component HTML, loop through the array and use it to render the snake body components. Create an index variable inside the loop to determine if the snake body is the head of the snake. If it is, set the isHead prop to true. Keyboard events. Svelte has a special component that allows you to attach events to the window. It's called the Svelte window component. Later, we'll use the component to respond to keyboard events. Every key on the keyboard has a code. Right now I'm pressing the up arrow key to see its code. The code is stored in the keycode property in the event object passed to the function. Create a function called onKeyDown that will take an event parameter. In the function, console log the keycode. Add the Svelte window component to the app component. Add an onKeyDown event to the Svelte window component. Open the developer tools in your browser. Go to the console section. Then press keys on your keyboard. If you see key codes, then you know everything is right. Create a variable called direction and set it equal to right. Look at the get direction from keycode function, which will translate the arrow key code to a direction. Create the body of the function to set the direction variable if an arrow key is pressed. Create a direction prop in the snake component. Pass the direction prop into the SnakeBody component from the snake component. We've already created the direction prop in our SnakeBody component. In the app component, pass the direction variable as a prop to the snake component. Test this out by pressing the arrow keys to make sure that the snake eyes move. The snake movement will work by adding and removing elements in the SnakeBodies array. Let's go over the steps for making the snake move. Step 1. Remove the last element in the array with array pop. Step 2. Create a new element to insert into the array. Step 3. Set the SnakeBodies array to a new array where the first element of the array is the new object, followed by the elements currently in the SnakeBodies array. In Svelte, it won't update the template for the SnakeBodies until it's set to a new array. We'll wrap all this in a setInterval function that will run every 200 milliseconds, so the snake will constantly be moving. Create the setInterval. Remove the last element of the array. Extract the top and left values from the first element in the SnakeBody. Next, write if statements to adjust those variables based on the direction. Create the new head object with the top and left variables. Set the SnakeBodies array to a new array where the new element is the first element, followed by the elements currently in the array. Let's save and test this out. Set the food left variable to 50 and the food top variable to 200 so that it lines up with the 50 by 50 grid that the snake travels on. In the setInterval code, use the isCollide function to see if the snake's head ate the apple. Use an if statement and alert to confirm this is working. We need a function that moves the food to a random space. We'll need the space to be divisible by 50 because we want the food to line up with the snake body. We'll accomplish this with math.random and math.floor to produce random numbers. We know from our CSS that the container is 1,000 pixels wide and 700 pixels tall. If we divide 1,000 by 50, we get 20. And if we divide 700 by 50, we get 14. Because we want to start at 0, 0, and we don't want to go past the border, we'll subtract 1 from 20 and 14. Create a function called foodMove. Set the food top variable to a random number between 0 and 13 and multiply that by 50. Set the food left variable to a random number between 0 and 19 and multiply that by 50. Delete the alert and call this function every time the snake eats the apple. The snake needs to grow every time it eats an apple. We'll do that by copying the last element of the SnakeBodies array to the back of the array. This will make the snake grow after it eats the apple. Create a function named isGameOver that returns false. Create an array containing all of the SnakeBodies minus the head. Use the filterArray function to get a list of SnakeBodies that have collided with the head. If there is one or more collisions, return true. Test this out in the setInterval code with an if statement and an alert. Finally, add the logic to see if the snake has left the container. Create a function called resetGame. Then call the moveFood function. Set the direction variable to right. Then set the SnakeBodies array to the original values. Call the resetGame function every time the game is over. Call the resetGame function at the bottom of the script tag. Now delete any code that was setting the variables set in the resetGame function. We now have a fully functional snake game. Create a reactive variable to keep track of the score. Display the score in the h2 tag in the app component. Create a reactive variable called score. Because we know we start off with 3 SnakeBodies, we'll subtract 3 from the length of the SnakeBodies array. Now output that variable in the h2 tag. With that, our snake game is complete. Commit and push your code to GitHub to follow along. This project uses Github Pages module, which was installed with the starter code. Import Github Pages in your rollup config. Use the imported Github Pages variable to publish to GitHub when we're in production mode. Run the build command. Go to the settings of the repository to see your GitHub Pages URL. Go to the URL and confirm that your snake game works. Congratulations, you built a snake game in Svelte.js. A great challenge would be adding a button to start and restart the game. I'll let you do that on your own. Thank you for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.